pH and like even with the places that the pool, that they send like pool supplies and I have a flyer so people can think like how critical it is to have the pool at you know, at a specific pH and the level of the
So get her information, put it like in a poster, or at least present it to the administration of these centers, right?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, because, you know, I had a friend, and she had like, what, 4 grandkids, and she's the one who takes care of the pool. And I was thinking about it, I said, did she ever take the pH, or she just put the chlorine on it and let it, you know, let it be?
But see how nice, because now you're thinking of your personal friends and what do they do? Do they have children? Are they in the PTA, parent teacher? Your friend is in charge of that pool, so you need that list. We all need that list.
And like you say, it's promoting the use of chlorine, right? So what's not to like about that at a pool store where you sell chlorine to chlorinate your pool?
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, we had a pool, we don't, sometimes we don't even think behind the chemistry or the maintaining the pool, so that's, you know, thinking of that research, it's like, oh.
What about the Department of Health? Have they ever thought about doing like an ad campaign, like a TV or radio campaign, like alerting people during like especially the peak like summer months?
You know, I don't know if they've done that on television before or not.
Well, I know that the schools give out flyers because it's very hard to penetrate the PTA according to the other awareness group that I was involved in. So what can we do so that if you know someone, maybe you're the connect between that school or that association, and then we can ask the key players to go there. See what I'm saying? Like Ruby, you know your friend, and sometimes we don't know enough. Like me, I probably don't know enough about this, but we certainly can get the information for you to, you know, to promote this.
We'd have to ask like the TV channel what you need for a public service announcement.
Yeah. I know the health department came out just before swimming season with a bulletin that went to all healthcare providers and laboratories, but why is it just going to them? They're kind of preaching to the choir. We want to get this information to the parents, and that needs to be disseminated to the laboratories. I don't know that that went any further than my mailbox. You know, maybe it should go to all licensed personnel in the state of Florida as an inbox, as a reminder. I don't think that's happening, and obviously the state of Florida has all of our information, right, because they have our licensure. So maybe that's an idea too, just doing a push at the beginning of swim season to all of us that are licensed as a reminder that this is something we need to look out for.
Now, if you are also affiliated, let's say you're Seminole State, you might have, I know you're affiliated with the high schools, correct? Isn't it? Like sometimes you accept the credits from the high schools or something like that. So if we can get to the high schools, are we only supposed to focus on the lab?
No, of course not. This is awareness. However, if we make that happen, it's just the laboratory is what we know, and that's the focus that we started with, but we don't have to stop there. We're all citizens, we all swim, we know people with children, we have children. I'm worried about myself. You know, I'm not going to go swimming in the lake because I know what the consequences could be. So we don't have to stop just at the laboratory. It's everything that is all around it.
What about trying to reach out to maybe whoever puts up like signage at state parks and ponds and that kind of stuff? You know, when they alert people to alligators, why is there not some sort of alert for bodies of water that, hey, if you're jet skiing here, if you're water wakeboarding, whatever, that you take the risk of contracting this and how to prevent it?
More signage is wonderful, but not to burst your bubble. Of course, we're going to try that. For instance, the child that was attacked by the alligators, there were signs there. There's snakes or alligators, and we actually have pictures. If you Google it, they do put there, you know, brain-eating amoeba. But what happens is that people get complacent. They just ignore it.
It's not going to happen.
Right? But I think we shouldn't stop. I think if we can put signage or whatever, then it's okay. Now, what we also would like you to do is not just think, you know how they have the expression outside the box. Let's think of the other box. What else could be there? So whatever application we have here to make people aware, how do you make people aware that you're the greatest cupcake maker in the world? Like, how do you advertise that? Just maybe talking about it constantly. Telling people how exciting it was that when you were here, you know, little things, this, and then this will bring up conversation, like, hey, what's this? Right, the visuals,
Yeah.
the visuals.
Out of curiosity, I just was thinking that the nose plugs that you should be wearing, is that 100% preventing something? I mean, you could put up signs saying that you need nose plugs in this area. There's a chance of, you know, Pam, that obviously one's the hospital side or healthcare side, but if you know that if you wear your nose plugs, you stop 98% or whatever. I don't even know if anybody's thought of that.
Well, I know the Gump family actually came up with, it's been on some of their flyers, I don't know if they originated it or not, but you need to nose. And that was kind of a saying, and they had the nose clips that they were promoting for people to use. But I don't know again how widespread.
And
it is.
the Children's Hospital by the cafeteria, they are there distributing the flyers on the swimming, during safety swimming, they call it, of course, to do in the area. And they were giving the
Yes,
nose.
they were.
So maybe in the rec centers or wherever, maybe give out more nose
YMCA's,
plugs.
You should bring.
YMCA? YMCA.
you should contact them. Try to do a campaign with them. They're everywhere.
Partnering with YMCA and Seminole State.
I have a question.
Even Daytona College.
Oh, so you know how the ear, nose, and throat are all connected? If it can go in your nose, why can't it go in your ear?
The point about it going up the nose is it crosses and able to cross the cribriform plate,
Mhm.
and that's how it gets into the meninges. I don't know that there's been any documented cases where it is actually entered through the ear canal, so that's why most of what you hear is going through the nasal passages. And that's about the extent of all I know. So whether that's 100% true or not, I don't know, but that's the majority of the information that's out there. I know that the kids that the Children's Hospital were providing when they were giving out these flyers, not only had the nose clips, but they also had earplugs
Earplugs.
as well. So,
It was a set.
yeah.
So maybe more awareness of that by giving people something, and everybody loves something for free, right? But perhaps with the ear, nose, maybe those little packets should say something about it and not just give it. You see what I'm saying? Prevent ham or prevent the brain-eating amoeba, something in those little things to make the parents or whoever aware.
No, I was gonna say, maybe I missed it, but I don't know if, I've never seen the advertisement in Florida Hospital, FHTV News, and I don't know, I haven't seen anything about the,
It was
Is it-
advertised a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
Should I be transparent? Anyway, yes, we have tried to get in touch, but sometimes, to be discreet, they just want new news. They want upcoming, newer news. But we haven't stopped trying to reach out to FHTV News.
Persistence.
We just have to be persistent.
What about how they did the hand washing campaign? Can we do some
Exactly.
sort of event for, you know, whatever? They did like a competition, didn't they?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. They actually filmed people on vacation saying, wash your hands, what about wear your nose
Because, well, never mind.
Maria, I just have a question. Like, how fast is that PCR test that they do at the CDC? I mean, what kind of, how expensive it is? I mean, we work on that.
Yeah.
Can we do it here?
That test was developed in-house at the CDC.
Okay.
We have talked about bringing this in-house ourselves. As a matter of fact, we're currently doing meningitis testing with an instrument, and we can rule out 14 different possible culprits in 65 minutes.
Oh, wow.
That just came out, we've been utilizing it for the past 6 months. and it's kind of exploded, along with our respiratory PCRs where we can rule out 20 different viruses in 60 minutes. Unfortunately, that company was contacted, not unfortunately, but Dr. Dumois contacted that company and asked them if they would consider putting Naglaria on that panel. Since the panel had just come out, they only review it every 2 years. So their reasoning was they would have to review it again. And as a matter of fact, I just listened to a webinar recently on meningitis through CAP, and I typed in a question, have you considered putting Naglaria, but they didn't read my question, so I didn't get my answer. But ideally, it's a very simple test and so sensitive. I don't know if it's as sensitive as the one at the CDC. The CDC has the capability of detecting as little as 1 organism in a sample, which is amazing. And that's how we did Sebastian's sample. We repeatedly took samples while he was sedated until the sample came back when there were no more organisms present, and that's when they were able to wake him back up and start the process. So that would be ideal to bring it in-house. Currently, nobody has that.
We are in
So-
discussion though with Alex from microbiology to see, sometimes it's a small process because we do have a micro. We have a micro/molecular department, but we also have the molecular diagnostics. So when you bring in a test, because we do send out quite a bit, right? I'm sure we can probably have the capacity to do that, but you usually have to justify it. Because sometimes the kits are a lot more expensive if you only use it X number of times, right? The other thing is, when you're talking about CDC, this is a sidebar, we need to improve the transport of our samples to them. Because here's what happens, right? On the weekends, FedEx does not work. So we cannot send our samples. We had a malaria case, and I'm going to have you send it there. Oh no, they don't leave till Monday, and we found it on the weekend.
Yeah.
There has to be something in place to send these things to CDC or wherever it needs to go for the diagnosis. And I know that that's, for me, it's a huge hiccup.
Even
Huge.
UPS doesn't work on weekends?
At noon is when everything shuts down.
One last case that we had, this was July 4, I believe.
Yes.
Sarah came in because we were talking about multiple family members that had to come in, but she was able to find someone. So I think at least we're in that route where it's a super staff that we need to have a courier that's willing to do it. In fact, I think.
Because of how, we work on call, how we get couriers coming from, Tampa, Jacksonville, whatever.
Right.
And we get our samples because,
This is to the CDC. In fact, I believe that one of the infectious disease doctors said, I'll pay for the helicopter, you send that sample to CDC. But they were able to find something on that.
And Dr. Ali from the CDC actually came in, this was on the night of July 4th, and he actually did the PCR testing and had an answer within an hour.
One of the other things that we would like to encourage, because the techs are so very busy with the process, what happens is maybe we can mention it to tell the other labs or whoever that we need to focus. Like if Larissa is focusing on testing, fine, because now comes in residents, infectious disease doctors, like is it positive, is it positive? So from there, we've created a protocol where actually our administration, like Sarah, Patrick, they'll take care of contacting doctors, infectious disease, just leave us to do our job. In other words, we need that full focus, right? Because when you're under pressure, and then you might say, I'm seeing something moving, and it's really not moving because it's by power of suggestion. All this actually, we have moved forward, learning from our barriers so that we get up and move quicker. Any more suggestions on the student side or parent side or?
How was it that you found out about the summit and you got to bring a lot of students?
It was
back to
on
you?
the website. There's a website about the summit, and we've seen that it was actually, it occurred on a day that it occurred like last year. We were like 1 day late. We learned about it like after it occurs. Darn, next year we're just gonna
Okay.
watch out for.
Did
So was that
you
Florida
research
Hospital
it? Did you
website,
research
or-
it, or did somebody send it to you?
Well,
or-
constantly students are looking for topics and then somebody, come across.
Which website was it on, the state, the Department of, which website did you find it on? You know,
Well, they Google things, so
Oh,
it
okay.
appears on Google. The power of Google,
Yes.
We don't want it to be that hard to find, so.
Yeah,
this way
and
we
it
can
was
make
there,
more
it says
prominent.
2017, yeah.
And the thing is, we also don't want to work in silos. We're so focused on Florida Hospital, and I always say, like Claudia said, what about the other hospitals? What about the other schools?
Yeah.
So you might know a teacher, you might know like your friend from the recreation center, you might know, I mean, just about anybody.
In
And-
UCF, like Mrs. Hitchcock, their students come here, and she comes here to even visit them when they're here. You can also talk to Mrs. She would. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't mind someone going to UCF and talking to them.
That was my epiphany last night.
Yeah, I was-
Because we're focusing
Yeah,
on
it was
ASCP
like, oh, yeah,
and
I
AMT,
didn't
and I
know
go,
that.
no, now we gotta go to the schools. Because even if they will not earn the CEUs, because they're not medtechs yet, they're the future. They're the future detectives. And therefore, yes, thank you very much for validating that.
Yeah, when I was in UCF, we had people that came in and talk, and all the students were all for it. We like all the talks that came, the med techs that came in. And there was someone from Florida Hospital that came in, and it was more blood bank that they talked, but we had people come in and talk, and that was really good.
And sometimes we can't wait for somebody else to invite. Sometimes we have to say, hey, I'd love to, give a talk. We have to facilitate this ourselves. So you can go ahead and offer us, or, all we can say is, no, I'm really busy, But that's a good thing. Thank you.
So I think it will be a good idea if you reach out to schools that have health programs. I graduated from one, and I did the global health track, and I knew nothing about the summit. And I think that would have been a good idea, schools like Seminole High School, University High School. I think there's one in Orlando that has a specified health program. Okay.
I think that's in Sanford.
Yeah, they have the med.
Yeah, I went to that one.
Yeah, you went to Sanford.
There's a college in Cocoa Beach, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or Daytona, one or the other, and they have a clinical lab program, because as a matter of fact, I know how to apply, whatever.
Well,
But,
I'll tell you something. For instance, some of you may know people from Puerto Rico who are very concerned. And when I was just kind of talking to someone, and she said, I'm so concerned about my family because there's devastation right now. And she said, what about the waters? What are they drinking and all this? So I said, when Puerto Rico has settled down, I'm sure Steve and group can go to Puerto Rico to educate, because a lot of I've got, at least 4 staff members who graduated from there. So we can go far and wide with this. Claudia has a lot of connections with the programs from her country, Colombia, right? So again, we don't just think of Florida.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, this morning I was sending links to my colleagues back in my country, and even a medical doctor who's a friend of mine, and they said we hadn't heard of it. So even though my country is a tropical country where a lot of diseases kind of even come before even you know them here, they are already over there okay, yeah, everybody knows about it. But in this case, they didn't know yet. So I was just sending links to my colleagues. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm gonna go to the national lab meeting, I can even mention it over there too.
That's right, yeah. You were telling us earlier that you posted something and you had 35 or 40,000 views. What was that?
Oh, that was just, that was on the Smelski, the George Smelski Foundation page. It was, what was that video?
We did Jordan's story. We turned that into a 10-minute story. It's actually a very clinical version of the story, which we planned on only putting in the hour-long program that we've been creating. But it went online. A lot of people learned a lot more about amoebas just by watching that. And then there's still even more that perhaps they need to know. because there was still some misconceptions like, oh, it's only in Costa Rica, or that's why I should be careful when I travel, but it's here too.
We also have to tell people that they always think, well, in the summertime. But in the Philippines, summer is it's hot in December, or in Colombia, or wherever, see? So really, it's gotta be all year round. Unless you're in Calgary, where I used to live, where it goes to minus 30 degrees.
That's the one thing about Orlando, we're the #1 vacation spot. And people from all over the world come here. We don't know what they've been exposed to. And like I said, Sebastian lived in South Florida. He was exposed there and he could have gone anywhere else on his vacation. He just happened to end up here. So that's why it's so critical to get this knowledge to people who aren't used to thinking about this as being part of their protocols or something that they see every day. And again, Maria has run into so many people when she's done her lectures through ASCP. She always brings it up at the end of, regardless of what she's talking about, there's always a portion about amoeba. And that's the same thing you can do in your conversations when you're talking to your colleagues. Maria brings it up and they say, oh, gosh, we don't have this information. We don't know about this. Can you share? People want to know, and it's our job to help educate and share what we do.
Larissa, you had them?
I know I brought it up last year, but I don't know if there was any kind of movement or research done about it, but doing like a mandatory CEU, like through the state licensing, like how we used to have the HIV/AIDS prevention CEU. Is there something we can implement in Florida that requires a 1-hour CEU for amoeba awareness?
I know Jack looked into that and they were kind of leery or didn't get much feedback, I guess, about making it mandatory. I think that might have been the issue, but I know it was discussed.
Okay.
But I don't remember what the actual outcome.
We
but
bring it
that's-
forward in the lab because when we expose, let's say, the SOP and it's something new, which we have kind of updated, we do send out a quiz. But perhaps like in your school, in South Sam, if you give a little test, maybe one question might spark it. Now, just to let you know also, when you have associations with different people, like I know I'm driving Shiela, and I said, I know the editor of the lab medicine. Lab medicine goes to at least over 100,000 medpecs, because this is the magazine from ASCP. So why not write an article? So we're gonna co-author that. We also have our CEUs through LabQ. So I called the LabQ coordinator and I said, hey, can we write a case study on amoeba? Again, so that it'll be a mandatory thing, because we need our 24-hour CEUs, right? If you know of anyone who does webcasts, you can also plug it in for the webcast. Because now everything is web, right? So if you know of anyone or...
Have you reached Advance magazine?
No, I was going to reach out to see.
Actually, one of our techs did, and they were interested in the story. If you guys still get Advance, I think that comes out monthly.
We can do that. We wrote a different article, Bonnie. I told Bonnie to author it, so we can go to the Advance, we can go CAP. And really all they can say is no, right? But if we, if we try to expose
What about,
good.
AREP Laboratories does a lot of webinar, like online
Yes.
CEUs, free CEUs. I've done a ton of them, but they do like web programs where like speakers will do a video and there'll be like presentation slides and a quiz and whatever. I
You
feel
can
like-
reach out to them as well. I know CDC does. They have a lot of webcasts as well. Anything else?
I'm going to try to tie this up because we're almost out of time here. You signed a roster that went around the room. Thank you. I hope you don't mind, but, and I'm not sure what that asks for, but maybe it has your emails. If you have an ounce of passion about this, we would love to get your input and your participation in whatever activities. So if you don't mind, we'd like to contact you and say, hey, are you interested in helping us with this? And if you're not, that's okay. But if you are, that's fantastic. The more people that we get on the bandwagon, the better. and the more avenues we have to reach other people. So we would just really appreciate anything that you're willing to do and contribute would be awesome.
There's one more thing that Steve and Shelley actually, they talked to me about it last year. They brought it up last night again. They really would like to sponsor a run, because that's where they get the funds, right? So they're trying to get in touch. Now, I know that one of my staff members went to Track Shack, because Track Shack, right? They sponsor a lot of this with Florida Hospital, but they had the 1-year program already done. So if, you know, if we can do that, even if it's a mini run, but to make people aware, Steve said he would provide for the shirts, anything just for people to be aware of it. You know, that's another thing.
How I find events that I'm gonna be doing, I usually look in Facebook. And right now I just did a search on Facebook, Amoeba Summit 2017, and I only found 3 searches. I think 2 people shared it, and then one, the event page, Smelski Foundation. So I think what would be good is we should have either follow or like, I guess, Smelski Foundation on Facebook. And then when events come, like Amoeba Summit 2018, that event can be shared on Facebook and liked on Facebook, so that all 1,000 of my friends can see, oh,
Right,
there's an
that's great.
event that's going to go on. Hopefully all those seats will be filled downstairs. Because once you attend one, it's different from knowing stuff versus experiencing and listening to the stories and being moved by it.
Okay, so social media, I put it there for life. I mean, I know for a fact, for instance, Larissa came last year, and we all say, well, how different will it be this year? We got more insight, didn't we? I mean, just Dr. Cope's lecture on the white water. I mean, who would have thought that you go kayaking in white water? And did you see that whole list? It was all positive from all different sides. That's enough to scare one, right?
And this is the first time after, in the 3 years that the laboratory has presented. And who are usually the first people to know that this is what you're dealing with? The laboratory tends to be the front line of defense, right? So this is critical information. So stuff changes every year. And like we say, we hope we get more and more people every year. And I'm so happy to see so many more people this year than previous, and then the previous year to that, so.
But that circles back to what Sheila is saying, the persistence. Because Sheila and I have attended 1 and 2, and finally I said the lab has to be here. You know, you have 2 goals here. One is for the awareness, for sharing, because we do detect it, okay? Second one is, we know that as clinical scientists, sometimes we feel we're in the, you know, nobody knows us.
Behind the scenes.
Well, you know, those days are over. Because what we've done, for instance, for our grand rounds in April, which is MedTech Week, we presented this whole thing. But we turned it around, and I spoke to Virginia, she's in charge of the grand rounds, and I said, we usually, when I, you know, anyway, form this, it's usually a pathologist, let's say for liver, and then I get the liver transplant doctor. And I said, we need to change this. The MedTech has to be there presenting as well. That is our visibility, and that shows our value. So we started that where Sheila gave a talk. Mr. Smelski even came from the compassionate parental view. So we had 4 speakers. We had one from the lab, and then we had the infectious disease doctor. And this is what we have to do. Because we have very good presenters, we have people in from the lab with passion, and your knowledge is so critical, valuable.
And I think on that note, we will conclude. We need to head back downstairs. You have a little bit of a break in between now and the general session where we're going to debrief, and you'll find out some information that was discussed at all of the other small group meetings. So thank you for attending, and I hope we can connect.